Hello, I'm guessing the key words that got you here are Pella and rot. If you have Pella Proline windows with rot, you're not alone. You can try doing a search for Pella and class action lawsuit and you can read a lot more about the problem. This rot in the view looks fairly extensive, but it can be not all that obvious. From the outside, it's covered up by the cladding and may not show up. And on the interior, the rot has gone fairly extensive before it shows up. Here's an interior view, but this is only after I poked some holes with a screwdriver. Some of the rotten windows barely showed up at all on the inside. Out of the 10 Pella windows in my sunroom, 6 of them had rot. I decided to repair the rot rather than replace the whole window, since I didn't want to deal with flashing hidden by the brick. If you would like to repair your Pellas, keep watching. I'll go through how I fixed it. I'll be working on fixed sash windows. The operable kind of windows have considerably fewer steps. Removing fixed sashes from Pella Proline is a pain compared to some other brands. To begin with, I had to break loose what remained of the cladding seal. Sliding a blade between the glass and the cladding worked okay. Brushing a little diesel fuel in the gap made it a lot easier. After the cladding is loose from the glass, pry the cladding slightly inward to release the groove. It's necessary to start at the top section and work down because of the end laps on the cladding. After the inside groove is free, push the cladding outward just a bit to release the outer groove. Slip the cladding off then without warping it. This shows the sash with the cladding removed. Now you can pull the gasket free. The sash is sealed to the frame with caulk and screws. An oscillating saw plunged in will make removal easier later. Plunging in too deep, though, can scuff the interior trim. In this case, there are 16 screws holding the sash to the frame, and they are driven from the frame side, so removal is impossible with the window still in the wall. Each screw was cut through. I started with a start hole with a 1/4 inch drill, being careful not to poke the glass with a reciprocating saw. It's useful to angle the blade just a bit so that you miss the interior trim. After sawing all the way around the glass, the old sash can be pulled out. This might seem like a redundant step. Why not just cut through the caulk and screws and tilt the sash outward intact? Well, I tried that and it didn't work so good. Remaining bits of sash are broken out. Here's a view of the screws. Notice how little the interior trim overlaps the sash. To get the screws out of the way, I used an angle grinder to grind them well below the surface. I then used a router to remove the old caulk and add about a 3/32 clearance. Wood chisel works too. Remains of the old sash removed from the glass and the glass cleaned. Now a new sash was made from pressure treated wood. Here's the drawing I used to fabricate the new sash stock. The circle dimension is the most critical. If this isn't right, the cladding will either be loose on the glass or too tight to snap in place. 2 sticks of this frame material can be cut from a 2x4. This shows how the cladding snaps on. My thumb is where the glass will fit. This is a view of the end connections. Frame members glued and pin nailed after being squared up. The cladding groove brought around the ends with a handsaw. Silicone caulk on the frame lip, glass dropped in, and clamped to a caulk cures. Also checking for square and parallel on the sides. Caulk applied to the cladding starting at the bottom section and then the sides and finally the top. Also caulked the end overlap. I added dollops of adhesive to the frame before I snapped the cladding on. This is the cladding snapped on. outer edge hooked in first and then pressed down till it snaps. This is how the cladding should fit in the groove. On the first window, I put the gasket back in the groove. On later reworks, I left it out. I think it worked better leaving it out. A heavy bead of urethane adhesive on the frame and the new sash is tilted in. The urethane expands just a bit to fill the space left by the router. This is the method I use to snug up the sash while the adhesive set. The gap between the cladding and the frame can be filled with silicone. It takes quite a lot. I took about 2.5 tubes per window. Another light bead of silicone was added to seal the cladding to the glass. This view shows masking. I later found it neater not to use the masking. And here's the deal done. Quite a bit of work, but good or better than new, for roughly $15 a window. Well, good luck if you decide to follow my example. Thanks for watching.